Teal Flea is what they call me these days.
And Legends Became Myth here.
We both have a list of our top 5 favorite Sith. So it's not necessarily the ones that we think are like most powerful or like overall like objectively.
It's
like,
the characters that we think are
but...
the most well-rounded and have the best story, and so that's how I look at it.
A personal connection too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, obviously grew up with some of these, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky because most of these I had figured out like which ones I liked most back in Legends.
Right.
Then when they reset the canon, it kind of like shifted it a little bit.
It definitely shifted for me. It definitely did for mine.
Yeah. So I think you're probably gonna have an idea of which ones mine are, but it might be kind of a surprise a little bit, but we'll see.
I have a feeling the top one for yours that I guessed will be pretty close, but the bottom ones, I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we both have a prediction for what we think our top 5 is going to be. So at the end, we'll decide.
Yes.
We'll see. We'll reveal what.
Well, I took a picture.
I
a picture of.
I have photo evidence as well, by the way.
Okay. All right.
And how about whoever gets the most correct? Like, if you have the right one in number 4, or right one in number 3, you get like a point or something. We'll see who gets most correct. All right. So I'll start with mine. Yeah. So number 5 for me is Mark of Ragnos. And the first time I heard about Mark of Ragnos was in Knights of the Old Republic 1. When you're in Korriban, they have like the different tombs. There's the 4 tombs that you go into.
Yep.
And one of them is the Mark of Ragnos tomb. And so that was the first time I actually heard about Mark of Ragnos. And then, like way back in the day when I played Knights of the Old Republic, I looked him up and I was like, I wonder who this guy is.
Yes.
So basically, what I like about him is that he's like the first Sith Lord, like the main top dog of the first Sith Empire.
Yep.
Which I think that's pretty cool. He's like, apparently he was so powerful that like nobody disputed that he had the role of the whole empire. There's like nobody challenged him. They all just like looked up to him, respected him.
Yep.
And then so he was like really powerful, and then he ended up dying of old age. So I don't think he actually lived that long, but eventually he just got old and died. Like nobody killed him or
That's
anything.
the thing I find about the Sith Lords. If they don't live like to eternal life, they die pretty young.
Yeah.
Except for, I guess, some other ones, like Darth Sidious, I guess, lived pretty old. But
immortality is a little bit overrated, I think. See, Mark of Ragnos, he just decided, I lived a good life. Nobody could beat me. I'm the most powerful. I'm just going to get old and die.
Right.
So after he dies, he actually turns into a Force ghost.
Yes. Yep.
I usually don't think about like the Sith turning into Force ghosts. I usually think about the Jedi turning into Force ghosts.
Right.
But Mark of Ragnos apparently turns into a Force ghost, and then what happens is he's like watching. He's like in this room, and there's 2 people trying to challenge each other to become the next like ruler.
Right.
I think it was Ludacris and Naga Sato.
They're
dueling each other.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's just like watching them. He's like, I wonder who's gonna be worthy to take my place.
Yep.
Which I think that part's really cool. But I forget who actually wins. I think Naga Sato actually wins that one.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that. Yep.
But I think later on too they have there's the Star Wars: The Old Republic guy, the Emperor, and that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Vitiate or whatever. I think he was actually there at the same time, but he didn't want to duel them because he wanted to wait for them to like fight each other.
Right.
And then later on he would like come out and be like, oh, I'm the most powerful actually. So he kind of like waited in the shadows, but I think they added that later on.
Well, I know obviously in the novel that Drew Karpyshyn wrote, the same guy that wrote Darth Bane trilogy, he has something with that. I believe it's Mark of Ragnos was the one that he respected Vitiate. I believe he ended up like respect him in the end because of how just innately powerful he was. But anyways, you continue.
I think he actually. Well, I think you're right. I think what he does is he actually like makes Vitiate a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Like he actually gives him a title or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing I like about Mark of Ragnos is he keeps showing up at different parts throughout like the whole timeline. So he's like one of the first Sith. And then he keeps showing up.
No. That's the one part I like about him. Yeah.
He shows up in. He's in. Obviously, he's in KOTOR. He's in the tomb.
Yeah.
And then he shows up, and I think later on there's Exar Kun or whatever. He like sees a Force ghost. He tries to resurrect.
That's what I meant. I think it's Exar Kun that liked this shit. I think that was actually the one, not Mark Ragnos. But I think he did meet Mark Ragnos though. But
and then the other time he shows up is in Jedi Academy.
Yep.
Or the
Jedi
Outcast.
I love that level at the end. Yep.
So they actually go back to Korvan. They like try to resurrect. They keep trying to resurrect Marco Ragnos apparently because he's like the one of the most respected Sith. So everybody keeps trying to resurrect him.
Well, I think that's pretty cool how they have that in at least in Legends where the Sith Lords they can, if they have like a tomb or something, they can still kind of stay alive just in that tomb. Whereas like the Jedi, they can be like anywhere in the Force or whatever. But the Sith are bound to like a trinket or something, like a medallion or either that or a tomb. Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so he's just like always at that tomb.
Yeah, they haunt it. They're pretty much like haunting it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my number 5.
Yep.
I know it's a big shocker.
All right. All right, so should I go with my number 5? We should turn to mine? Okay. All right. So, speaking about Darth Vitiate, my number 5 is Darth Vitiate.
Oh, nice.
I know that he's not really your favorite because I know that you think he's like extra OP or whatever, but
he's pretty OP.
I actually, just the fact that he has so much lore now from especially the Old Republic.
SWTOR.
Yeah. I think just because he has so much lore now from that, it adds so much to his character. Like, he has so much mythos now. And especially, I read the Darth Revan book, which... And I know you read that too, and we let each other borrow that. But
I did finish reading it.
He was, of course, the only ones that had eternal life, which I think is awesome about him. But he just has so many names, and like he has multiple names, like the Dragon of Zagul, Valkorion, Emperor Vitiate, and then he has Tenebrae. It's just like he has a whole bunch of names, and I think that's cool. Like he gets like reborn a couple different times in the game. I never played the game all the way through, but I hear like that part of the story is like really awesome. I think they
I know there's a couple expansions that are cool.
Yeah, at one point I believe he got killed by the Outlander, and he like kind of did like an essence transfer. So, like, he survived through him or whatever. And then he comes back. But anyway, he has many different ways of eternal life.
Essence transfer.
Yeah. Well, I know he does the, when he was young, when he first became, like, a Sith Lord, he very much just consumed the planet of Nathema, I think it's called. And there was 8,000 Sith Lords. He got to go together with them. They all served him. Like, 8,000 Sith Lords. Like, come on. That's mega powerful. And then he tricks them into, like, doing, like, kind of a ritual. And then it consumed the whole planet. And I think with them, he consumes them. And so he... through their souls or something, he can obtain eternal life, or he lives longer.
So he has the power of like 8,000.
Yeah, so pretty much he has like 8,000 lives or whatever.
Okay, that's way too OP.
But then later on, though, like I know in the Darth Revan, well, that part actually is in the Revan book, but they explain more of that in the game. But in the Revan book, which you read as well, when Revan meets him, he builds this device. It's kind of like a mixture between alchemy and Sith science kind of thing. And that's where he ends up taking Revan when he destroys Revan. Like, actually, Revan was about to beat him in that book. Like, he was literally about to destroy him, but then the Lord...
Does he betray him?
Yeah, it's the main guy that's in there the whole time. He's kind of on Darth Revan's side. He ends up tricking him. He backstabs Darth Revan, if I remember right.
Which annoyed me.
Yeah,
and,
that part annoyed me too.
He was literally about to kill him. But anyways, so he takes Revan and puts him inside that device. And apparently in the Old Republic
it's like a
game,
stasis field.
He's like in a stasis field, and he ends up becoming like back to the dark side, kind of. At that point, he's like on the light side. Oh, he's a balance, kind of. He has both sides, but his brain's all messed up because he lived for like 400 years after that. I forget the exact years,
right.
But I thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, he's just cool. Darth Vitiate. I mean, he's maybe mega OP, but if he's not on the list, I mean, come on, he has to be there. At least on my list.
He does get beaten eventually, right?
He does. I forget who it's by. It's not by the Outlander. The Outlander, I think, was the first one to beat him, and then I'll put that in later. But
yeah, so I mean, it doesn't matter how powerful you are. Eventually, you're gonna lose. So.
Yep. That's
I guess he's not. I guess at the end of the day, he's not that OP.
As Darth Sidious would say, he can save others from death, but not himself. He did obtain immortality, I think, longer than any of our Sith Lords. So
yeah, it was like thousands of years. Or something.
There's much more I could have said about him, but...
Yeah, all right. So my number 4 is actually going to be Darth Vader. Okay. Surprise. Well, obviously Darth Vader is a classic. Yeah. You know.
Well, yeah, we all know he's a classic.
He has that thing where he's just like so intimidating, like any scene he's in movies.
Oh, yeah.
Or like anytime he shows up in a game or something. You're like,
I mean, come on.
You know what you're going to get, but he always delivers. You know, he's always consistently delivers.
Force Unleashed, the beginning of that level on Kashyyyk, come on.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
That is like the best entrance of the game. Like, you just want to play the game just because of that level. Like, I know. It's one of the best open levels on a game.
I think I played that level more than like any of the other levels in the game.
For sure. And I also love the way he's just walking through, like he's just like marching the way through like the whole course. Kashyyyk. That's awesome.
He does definitely a good portrayal of him in that one.
Yeah.
And also, when I was a kid, I played the Lego Star Wars games, and that was like when actually got into Star Wars from the Legos first. I didn't really watch the movies until I got older.
Right.
But I remember one of my first Lego minifigures or Star Wars minifigures was Darth Vader. Something about it. It's like I thought he was the coolest Lego guy.
No, yeah, he has to be on one of our lists. He has to be. At least he's on your list.
I mean, he's definitely. I think in all the other movies, the thing is they always say he's the most powerful and like he's so like ridiculously powerful, but you don't really see it that much.
Yeah.
Like in the movies or anything. You do start to see it in the newer stuff, and then there's like the animated stuff too. But
he's definitely the Jedi or Sith with the most potential. I think he had the most potential for any of them to be the most powerful. I know for like many different sources. I think what George Lucas said, he was only at 80% of his power because of his suit he had on or whatever.
Right. So he's definitely weakened by the suit, and he had like the weakness of Force lightning, right?
Yeah. That was a big because Darth Sidious could like kill him anytime he wanted just because of that. And it's like Darth Sidious's most powerful weapon is lightning.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't have to use his lightsaber.
Yeah. Even with his power 80%, he was like better than most of the Sith Lords in history. So I do agree with you on that. Yeah. I mean, not on my list, but
yeah, he's not on your list, but he's on my list. I think he deserves a spot. Sometimes he's overrated, sometimes he's like really underrated.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I definitely agree. Like, I think he's the most talked about Sith Lord, but I also think that sometimes they portray him in some things like he can get beat by too many people.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't really like Anakin as much, but I like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I feel like the character gets so much more complexity when he's Darth Vader, but then again, he doesn't really
it's the whole fact that he turns into Darth Vader. I think that's the thing that makes Anakin likable is that
the classic plot twist.
Yeah,
Episode 5 the plot twist. It's like that's probably one of the best scenes ever.
Oh yeah,
like in movie history.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's number 4 for me.
Okay. All right. So my turn. All right. So my number 4 is Darth Revan. Okay. So
I can see it.
Yeah, Darth Revan. All right, come on. How can he not be on the list? Who can't like him? Well, first off, KOTOR, the best Star Wars game in all of Star Wars history. I mean,
it's honestly the best. In my opinion, it's the best Star Wars story in general.
Yes,
the KOTOR 1 is my favorite.
I
more than any of the movies, honestly.
Compared to the movies, I have to say that KOTOR is actually my favorite out of all like the movies and most of the books combined. Like that, KOTOR is my favorite. But, I would have to say, like, anyone that hasn't played KOTOR doesn't know. They don't know what all Legends is about. Because KOTOR, like, that makes Legends, like, that's actually what brought me into Star Wars besides the Darth Bane trilogy. But
the same for me, really.
Those two things. Actually, at first, you were the one that kind of got me into Star Wars when you started talking about KOTOR. And I saw the trailer for actually the Old Republic first, and I thought that Malgus in the beginning of that one video trailer they had where he's like, you waited in your cradle of, that one.
You were deceived.
Yeah, you were deceived or whatever. I thought that was, I thought he was Malik, but it's Malgus.
He looks like Malik.
Yeah,
I don't know why all the Sith Lords have to have a mask on their
so I thought at first that's what it was him. And I was so impressed by that trailer. Like, that really got me into Star Wars, that opening trailer. I forgot the trailer name
Well, I mean, they haven't really had any Star Wars scenes that are as cool as that trailer since the trailer came out.
Like, seriously.
One of the coolest scenes.
Like, he walks in, and it actually gave me a serious Darth Bane vibes. It has, like, his same kind of motif, like, he outthinks everyone and stuff, but...
Right.
Then when I played KOTOR, after that storyline, it made me so much like Revan. Especially that he's, like, from the light, and he loses his memory. It's kind of like a Jason Bourne kind of thing. He loses all his memory, and he turns kind of like he's a redemptive arc kind of thing, and then he finds... And then a twist at the end, he finds out he's Revan. Like, come on, that's the best. And then,
I was so surprised, too, by that.
And without him, Darth Bane would have never really had the role, too, because Darth Bane learned a lot from his holocron that he ended up having on Rakta Prime. That planet in KOTOR, like, at the end with the Rakata. Like, he I don't want to spoil it for you, because I know you haven't finished Darth Bane yet. But
I'm still reading it.
Yeah, he ends up looking at that holocron. Well, you've seen it in that Lego video. Best Lego video, by the way, of Star Wars I've seen so far is
it's a good Lego video.
Anyone that's listened, Smeagol Studios does a great job on Darth Bane Lego video. It's awesome.
The Lego videos rival the actual canon stories.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would have to say, Darth Revan's definitely my number 4. Especially that he goes back from light and dark, like the perfect. He's like what Anakin should have been, kind of. I mean, he did go like dark kind of brutal, but in the end though, like he ended up being the redemptive arc that Anakin.
It makes for a good story.
Yeah, it makes a good story. All right.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Well, my number 3 is actually Darth Revan.
Okay. He's a little higher in your list than me. Okay.
Yeah, he's not.
That makes sense.
I definitely put him above Vader just because I think the characters, like you said, there's a similarity between Anakin and Revan, but I think Revan, they just kind of took it up to the next level.
Right.
And I like the era that he's into. I like the Old Republic era a lot more than like the Galactic era.
Oh, same.
I like it both for different reasons, but
right. Yeah.
I mean, when I first played KOTOR, I was like, I wasn't really sure what to expect. You start off with playing like you use vibroblades. Like this doesn't feel like Star Wars. They're using like actual swords instead of lightsabers and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But what I really liked was that they introduced a whole bunch of Jedi, and you also have a whole bunch of Sith. Mm-hmm. And where in all the movies and everything beyond that, it's basically you have either a lot of Jedi in the prequel, but it's still only a couple Sith, and then in all the other movies, you only have Vader and Sidious.
Yeah.
So I was like, you never really get to see a whole bunch of Sith.
It's the first
That's
time.
Why I really liked it.
Yeah, it's the first time we see both the Jedi and Sith having a whole bunch of actual Sith Lords and versus a whole bunch of Jedi instead of just a whole bunch of Jedi versus like a couple Sith Lords.
Yeah. And I actually like that better because you have different characters, or even have like nameless characters, but they're a Jedi or a Sith. Yeah. So they're really powerful, but they're kind of just nobodies still. Like, they're not. In the movies, it's always like you have a Jedi or a Sith, and they're this Skywalker or some huge character, and then it keeps showing up again over and over and over. But I like that in the Old Republic, you have kind of just random people who are Sith or Jedi. I kind of like that kind of lore in general, because you can have you can really just make any character you want just pop out of nowhere, and he's during that era, and it's like he can be really powerful, but he doesn't have to be the most powerful. So I kind of like that nuance of having a whole bunch of Force. Yeah, Force users and stuff. So
well, I think that's what George Lucas originally wanted. Was he wanted like a whole bunch of people to have the Force, not necessarily like just a couple people. Yeah. I don't like it when everyone can just use the Force though. But I do think that there should be more like people that have lesser Force ability that are outside, not just in the Jedi Order, like they are around, but which is cool that they have that.
And I think the other thing too, we're kind of on KOTOR, is just they kind of introduced the gray Jedi, so being you're not fully dark side, not fully light side. Yeah, you're kind of just like in the middle. And I actually wish Star Wars would do more of those characters.
I agree.
To me, it feels more realistic. Yeah, it's like you have someone who has good stuff and bad stuff, but they're not really like taking a side. Right. Not really that's most people in general, like in the world. They're not like one extreme or the other. Right. Yeah. So I feel like the character's a little bit more realistic.
You don't just get the dogmatic view of the Jedi, not just a narrow dogmatic view. Jedi are evil. There's a larger perspective of the Force.
Well, from a certain point of view. Yeah. Number 3 is gonna be Revan for me. Shocker.
It's pretty close to what I'll tell you my list for you in the end, but yeah. All right. So my number 3 is none other than Darth Sidious.
All right. 3, really?
Yeah, like anyone that doesn't have Sidious on the list. I know I said this about everyone I had so far, but like Darth Sidious, he is like the embodiment of Sith Lords. He has
arguably he's the main Sith.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if you don't know what a Sith Lord until you've seen Darth Sidious. Like he is like the embodiment. He's cunning, tricks, powerful, ruthless. He's smart. He's not just like some like overpowered like brute or something.
Yeah, he doesn't go in with just like brute strength.
Like it's the whole setup of the whole republic of him just coming in and just tricking everyone and they don't even know that he's the Sith Lord until like the very end.
Well, I knew for the record.
I mean, okay, all right. Anyone that's watched the old trilogy first, the original trilogy, knows who it is, obviously. But actually, when I saw it, I still had my doubts. I barely saw the old trilogy. I might have seen it once when I was like a little kid, the original trilogy. Right. But I remember when I saw the Revenge of the Sith for the first time. I mean, spoiler alert, that's my favorite of the Star Wars movies, Revenge of the Sith.
Just because, I forgot about that.
What's that? What did you forget?
I forgot that was your favorite.
Oh yeah, Revenge of the Sith. Like I don't know. It's just because so many epic moments that happen in that. Order 66. You know what it is?
Yeah.
Lead up to that, because my whole family they talk about like, oh, there's this Yoda gets beat by this ultimate Sith Lord, and I was like, who is that guy? I want to know who it is. Like, because I just saw Count Dooku get beat by Yoda, and it's like, and that was like a powerful duel. I'm like, how can you beat Yoda? You know, I mean, it ends up being kind of like a draw, but still, like, so that like the whole build up to that was like. The whole mystery, well, it wasn't a mystery for most people, but I was young. I was kind of young when I saw it. I don't know, like 11, 12 or something. And that was like maybe younger than that, but it was like, that was all awesome. I like him more so because of the Darth Plagueis book. Mm-hmm. That really fleshed him out for me. Like, he used to be probably lower on my list. Like, he might have been like number 5 and probably bumped out Vitiate, or maybe like, or something else would have happened with that. But because of that book, his whole origin story with Darth Plagueis when he meets him on Naboo, and like he's next to that speeder, and Plagueis is asking him questions, and like he doesn't know he has the Force, but then suddenly he sees all the stuff trembling, like the flowers and stuff, and he's like, how does he have the Force? You can't even sense it from him, but he's so powerful that he like somehow cloaked himself that no one can know he has the Force. Scene. And then like he's just like ultimate. He wants like the ultimate power just from that age. He was born to be a Sith. Unlike most Sith, they turned like from Jedi to Sith. He was like a Sith from the moment he was born.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah, he was just like he's the embodiment of the dark side, pretty much. That's what he is.
Right.
He's kind of like Vitiate in a way. Cause I think Vitiate was similar to that, but I like Darth. Well,
they definitely modeled Vitiate after Palpatine in some ways.
Right. Well, even in the Plagueis novel, they refer back to Vitiate. So, yeah. Yeah, but and then like just he has to be number 3 for me. So,
all right, well, this might be a shocker to you, but number 2 is Darth Sidious.
I
think ours are like slightly staggered.
Yeah, this is where it narrowed it down for me. Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Sidious is number 2 for me. So it used to be Sidious was my number 1. I think the sequels I dropped him down a little bit for me because I didn't like that. I didn't like that they brought him back.
That's one more thing I meant to say about Darth Sidious. Like the whole thing on Exegol, I did not like the arc that happened right there because it kind of ruined the role of 2 a little bit for me. Just the role of 2 kind of got ruined because I never thought of it as power being transferred to one another. It was more so like you were good enough that you could beat your master and the power went on instead of like you got his essence like transferred to you. I didn't really get that, but yeah.
But yeah, in general, like I didn't like that they brought him back because I thought I think it lessens kind of the impact of him in episode 6, like being betrayed. Yeah. So, but you know, if they had planned it out from the start to have him, I think I would have liked a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, it kind of reminds me of Dark Empire, you know, where he makes a bunch of clones of himself. The
clones, yeah.
He gets the hand of Luke Skywalker or whatever. He finds it. Yeah, from I don't know how he finds it. Yeah, like it gets cut off.
The trash chute, right? It gets. They found it in the trash or something.
They find it, and then he uses the hand, and he makes all these clones, and he makes a clone of Luke, and then Luke has to fight himself. Like some stuff is kind of, I don't know. I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of dumb, but I know some people like that, so they obviously brought that back. But I think the reason why I like Sidious the most was because, well, in the movies, that's when I first really started getting into Star Wars. I watched all the movies when I was like 12 or 13 or something. Yeah. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than that, actually, but I like that he was kind of behind the scenes the whole time. Right. Like he was behind the whole Clone Wars stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, manipulates it so that it goes in his favor. I guess the emergency powers. I know people don't like the prequels because there's like really corny lines. Yeah. Some people don't like the political stuff, but I actually really like the arc, like the political arc behind the scenes and everything.
Yeah,
I thought that was really smart how they did that. Yeah. Order 66 is like one of the coolest.
I mean, I don't know how that can't be.
Movies,
I don't know how that can't be in your top 3 for like movie scenes of Star Wars. Like that is one of the most awesome parts.
So that
tragic really and sad, but awesome.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool to betray all the Jedi.
Do that in a Darth Sidious voice.
I mean, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Well, then you are lost.
Yeah. So Sidious. What else about him? Also, the other thing I liked was in Lego Star Wars, you can just go around using your Force Lightning on
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
I was like, oh, it's like so OP in that game.
Well, I remember I had the second Lego Star Wars game, and like you could keep him doing that spinning move, like from the Revenge of the Sith. Like, and you spin it through the air. I love that. That was awesome.
Yeah, and he's got some good lines too, like I am the Senate.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of any other good lines, but he has some good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Force Lightning.
No.
Force Lightning, I think something I don't know. I just really like the Force Lightning. I thought it was really cool. And I like how he doesn't actually. I think they had it in the Clone Wars and some other stuff. Like he doesn't actually like lightsabers that much. Like he uses them, but he's so good at them, but he doesn't actually like value them that much.
Yeah, no, I heard the same thing.
He's so powerful in the Force, he doesn't need a lightsaber.
Well, I heard
it's pretty epic.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So should we move on to mine?
Yep. So that was my number 2, Darth Sidious.
Yeah. So before I was about to spoil my next one, but number 2 is
I could probably guess what it is.
Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was about to say, so Darth Plagueis had the same thing with the lightsabers. He didn't think it was really much of it was more of an archaic thing, but he still learned. He was still like the ultimate duelist, but he still preferred to use the Force with that. But all right, so Darth Plagueis, that novel.
There's a lot to say about Plagueis.
Yes. Okay. I know that he's on your list, just to say, so I'm not gonna go too much overboard with him. But so I would have to say that novel. Anyone that hasn't read that novel needs to read that novel. That is.
I agree.
After the Darth Bane trilogy, that is my number 1 novel.
Well,
so my number 2 novel.
It like brings the whole Star Wars story together.
Yeah.
In a way that the movie, like nothing else is done yet with the movies.
Well, I know a lot of people say the prequel or the Clone Wars brings the prequels together. I think that the Darth Plagueis novel brings it way more cohesively together. Like especially the Phantom Menace, like all those scenes, like. The one where, that scene where Darth Maul's talking to Darth Sidious, and he's walking...
Yeah, it's like, at last we shall make our revealing, or what does he say in that?
It's like, at last we shall reveal ourselves, at last we... Something like that, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
At last we shall get our revenge.
Yeah. And that part, I love in the novel, apparently Darth Plagueis is like in one of the buildings right next to it, he's looking through his binoculars or something. And
he's looking at him.
Yeah, I love that part. Like that just ties it in so well. And then like the whole arc of him explaining how they got Darth Maul and how he was a baby from what's that planet? The witches from Dathomir. He got them from there. Yeah. And he was just saying he's just an assassin. That's not really gonna be my number 2. And I mean, I think that was partially true. I don't think he really thought Darth Maul was ever gonna be his like Sith Lord, next Sith Lord or whatever. But I think Darth Sidious had plans of never dying. I don't think he ever thought of. I think he didn't really want to follow through with Role 2. I think he thought the time of Role 2 was over and that his time was. Darth Plagueis thought the same thing, but.
Well, I think Sidious thought that he was like the final step of the grand plan.
Yeah.
The Sith imperative.
Yeah. Yep. But Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious were alternate for me, but just because of the sequels, I put Darth Plagueis a little higher because I really liked how Darth Plagueis kind of still staying to what I think of him as, because they haven't really flushed him out yet. I mean, I hope someday they make a good movie about him, like something that really because that story that really is a really good story. But I also like he talks so much about in that book. They talk about Darth Bane. They talk about so many older Sith Lords and obviously Darth Tenebrous, his master, the Bith guy, the guy, one of those Bith creatures from
Mos Eisley.
Yeah, Mos Eisley Cantina, where they're all playing the music,
they're playing instruments.
Yeah, and like how he's like so smart. Like they have like 2 brains or something, and like he was apparently I just read another book, or I just listened to another audiobook. It's like an hour long by the same author, James Luceno, I think it was.
Is that the one about his master?
Yeah, and apparently I didn't know this, but apparently Tenebrous used essence transfer, that thing on Darth Plagueis. Yeah. But when as soon as he did it, he did not realize that Darth Plagueis was gonna die and be killed by Darth Sidious.
Yeah,
and apparently
so he gets stuck, right?
Yeah, so he gets stuck, and Darth Sidious, and I guess apparently when that happens, the time is different, so it's all like it's on a loop kind of.
Yeah,
so
he
like keeps on getting killed kind of over and over and stuck on it. It's actually pretty cool.
It's pretty lousy way to go out.
Yeah, it's a pretty lousy way to go. But he thought like, oh yeah, I figured it out. 'Cause he's so smart or whatever. But no.
Well, yeah. What's cool is that he figures out how to like transfer his essence into the midichlorians.
Yeah,
and also midichlorians I think it's kind of a meme. Like everyone kind of thinks it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, midichlorians.
Yeah.
But the Plagueis stuff actually takes midichlorians and takes it to like a scientific level,
yeah,
like
because,
a dark Sith.
Yeah, because they make like a whole like alchemy out of it, or they make like a I know like Darth Plagueis, he has like those science chambers, and he's like constantly experimenting with different things.
Yeah, he like manipulates the Force and stuff.
Who's one of the guys he captures, and he just puts him in one of those chambers or whatever.
Guy, like Venomous or Venomous or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Venomous. Yeah. The other guy that was gonna take the place of Darth Plagueis because the Tenebrous thought he wasn't like gonna actually be that powerful or something. Like wasn't the real. So he had him duel with him. That was pretty cool. I like that part. But and then he takes him. But anyways, I'll let you go to your next one.
Well, I don't think you have to guess which one my number one is, because my number one, as the last three, you have been like one step ahead of me. I mean, I know what your number one is, but yeah. So my number one is Darth Plagueis.
I knew it.
You finally convinced me to read the novel. Well, I read the audiobook. I listened to the audiobook on YouTube. Which is cool because they have like the sound effects and the voice actors and stuff. Yeah. It's actually a good listen. My main thing that I like about him is the fact that he has the grand plan.
The grand
Sith
plan.
Imperative. The Sith Imperative.
Yes.
In the audiobook keeps saying the Sith Imperative.
Yeah.
He sounds so smart. You don't even think he's a Sith. He's
I've listened to some of the audiobook. It's so good, yes.
He's like narrating the Sith history or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, he connects from all the way back in Mark Ragnos up through Revan. Then Revan has the Sith holocron that Bane gets, and then Bane, has the rule too.
Yep.
Oh, Bane, the one who started the rule too.
Well, I love that part where he has the whole history of them, like all the history of the Sith lineage.
He's taking Sidious through the whole history of the Sith, which I think is really cool. And I think honestly that's one of the things I wish they would focus on more in Star Wars, like the official canon, is like the Sith lineage and how each Sith kind of connects to each
so
other.
Much lore
right now,
with
there's
that.
not really a connection. Yeah. It's not like a cohesive connection or like a timeline between all the Sith.
No.
And what I like about the Plagueis novel is he like strings it all together.
Yep.
As the Sith actually have a plan. They're not just like some evil guy who wants to take over and he doesn't care about anything else. No, they actually have that process where they're trying to lead the whole galaxy into the dark side.
Well, I love their aliases they do, like the Mask Holdings and like all the banking clan and all that. Like I love how they all each have their own alias they go by, like their real name that originally were born with, and they all have their own like I know Sidious is more of the political spectrum, but Plagueis is the economic spectrum.
Yeah, he's like economic stuff. Yeah. Which I think that stuff I really like because I like economics and stuff. So that's why I think Plagueis is definitely number one for me.
Right.
The other thing too is what they do is the whole thing about he could keep others from dying, but he couldn't
but not
keep himself from dying.
Yeah,
but not himself. Have you ever heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
Darth Plagueis, with the Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise.
I like that. He kind of reference in the movies. It kind of alludes to Plagueis being able to create life.
Yeah,
and I know they never talked about it specifically, but they do have an episode 1 that Anakin he didn't have a father, so he's basically a virgin birth.
Right.
Which I always thought that was a little bit weird, especially they don't really talk about it. But I like how
they
have Plagueis kind of
they fleshed it out so
life.
much. Yeah, and so
basically,
right. Yep.
Well, they don't talk about it explicitly in the Plagueis novel either, but the whole thing about him manipulating the Force to create life, and he's doing all these Sith alchemy experiments with the Force. And he has his laboratory. He's trying he's trying to create immortality, and he's also trying to create life.
Yep.
So I like that they kind of allude to Anakin actually being planned out, where they actually create Anakin as part of this plan to turn him to the dark side.
Right. Well,
so they kind of allude to that, which I think is really cool.
Well, I know that too, and also I think there was also another thing where apparently because there's the balance of the Force, where Darth Plagueis was trying to create life, or when they got so powerful because of Darth Sidious and them together that they created a nexus where in order to balance it out, Anakin was created. I think it was almost the Force created him because of how powerful they were.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It was kind of a twist. You're expecting someone else, and they kind of twist it around a little bit. You always think that Plagueis kind of initially created him. He knew that someone was created though, because he said he sensed it. He knew because they made it imbalanced or something. They tipped the scales or something.
What Plagueis did, he basically he figured out how to shift like the polarity of the force. Like apparently it was light side before, and that's why the Jedi were so powerful for so long. And then Plagueis actually figured out how to like switch it to the dark side. So like he like tipped the scales a little bit to make it in favor of the Sith, and that's kind of part of his grand plan, or the Sith imperative. The Sith imperative is to like this whole history that leads to the Empire, basically the Galactic Empire. Where the Sith take over.
I also love the part where I was listening to some of the audiobook the other day, and where they go to Camino, and he's talking to the Kaminoans. I think that's how you say them. And they're talking about what kind of clones they should have. Like, should they have humans, or they should have what's the ones that have they're immune to the Force, so like Yalmari or something. I forget the exact name. And they couldn't use them because they wouldn't follow orders, or they wouldn't listen to people or whatever. They're kind of
they weren't compliant enough.
Yeah, they weren't compliant. So they talked about what they want to use or whatever. And also the other part I like is when he talks to Qui-Gon Jinn and Count Dooku. They're all three of them they're talking together, and Qui-Gon says a couple lines to him, and Plagueis kind of likes him. He knows he's really smart or whatever. He knows that Qui-Gon's like he knows better than the Jedi. He's not dogmatic or whatever. But
I think that's another thing I really like about Plagueis is that he doesn't feel like evil to me. It feels like he has this idealistic. He's very idealistic. So he's like trying to create this empire for the Sith that he actually thinks is better for the whole galaxy.
And he does say that in the book. He doesn't get Sidious because apparently humans they're very more so on their feelings. And he like at first he's like, I don't know if Sidious is if he's always going to be the right choice to have him as an ally or whatever.
Like to continue the grand plan.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that. Like,
but that's part of his weakness. And that's why Sidious ends up betraying him.
So powerful, he takes over and so wise.
Well, he actually ends up being he actually does complete the Sith imperative. I think he actually does complete it, right? Because the Galactic Empire was like the final stage of the grand plan.
Well, because that's when he dies. He ends up dying. Darth Sidious ends up becoming Chancellor, and that was when he goes into the room right after that. He just got accepted to being Supreme Chancellor.
Right. And, because he actually didn't consider the political side of things. But then when he saw that Palpatine was like so good with politics, he's like, there's actually like a lot of benefit from that.
Well, that's another thing. Like, do you think Darth Sidious was more powerful than Darth Plagueis? Or do you think otherwise? Because wasn't Darth Plagueis drunk? At least in the novel, wasn't he like?
Yeah, I think Plagueis was actually more powerful.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe Darth Sidious had more raw power. I've feeling maybe he had his more like innate power, but I think Plagueis was still. He could use the power better. Well,
also
Sidious
too at the time that like before he got betrayed, he was actually really close to be like figuring out immortality.
I agree.
Or actually, he may have actually achieved immortality, but then obviously he died. He got killed. And what was so powerful about him was that nobody even knew that he was a Sith Lord.
Right.
He was so behind the scenes, like he was so in control of all the banks and everything that there's like no way that anyone could ever beat him.
The mask holdings.
Palpatine's the only one that could have beaten him.
Yep. I love that the Sun Guard part. I love that whole thing where the assassins come after Darth Plagueis, and Darth Sidious
makes him weak.
Yeah, it ends up making him weak, and that's where he gets his respirator, I think. Or did he get the respirator before that? I think he might get the respirator. I forget. I think he got it before that, but I think they used that because he had the respirator. I think they used that against him, if I remember right. And so then Darth Sidious ends up coming in and help rescuing him. Like they fight together, and it's like ultimate duel or ultimate fight. It's awesome. Yeah. Fight. But then Darth Sidious, I love after that. Darth Sidious goes up into the rooms and he's like slaughtering everyone. Like just going up to the rooms and like there's like a whole bunch of mercenaries waiting there. And he just like, it's awesome.
So it shows how powerful he is. Yeah. So that's my number one is Darth Plagueis, and the thing is, I think if anyone cares about Legends at all, like I know people don't care about it because it's not canon anymore, right? But if you want to see like where Star Wars could go or where it even could have been, so it makes me a little bit sad because I could see the potential of Star Wars in the Plagueis novel that they didn't really capitalize on, but they definitely still could bring him back and work on that. So I'm so hopeful that they do stuff with Plagueis. So that's my number one.
All right, so my number one, dun dun dun. This is gonna shock you. This is gonna shock you, but Darth Bane. Okay.
No, really?
So Darth Bane's the creator of Role 2. Okay, he's the one that gave the Sith their purpose.
Wait, I know. You're Darth Bane, the one who created the rule too.
Wait, what's that from?
That's from the Clone Wars scene where basically they're about to change the canon. Yeah, he knows the canon's gonna get changed. So they're like, well, let's make Bane canon just by mentioning it. So they have Yoda mention it.
When I mean Darth,
like, oh, you're Darth Bane.
Yeah. So when I mean Darth Bane, I don't usually think of that scene from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But so anyway, the Darth Bane trilogy. First of all, best trilogy in all of Star Wars, right above Darth Plagueis. Those are very close in hand, but Darth Bane trilogy I recommend for a read if you really want to get into Star Wars, especially the Path of Destruction, the first book. Oh, so good. And also, I love the third book, too. The second book's good, too. But, like, the first and third...
I'm actually reading the first book, but I haven't gotten through it yet.
Yeah, well, there's just so much to it. But, anyways, he's the creative role, too. So, without him, the Sith would not have gotten to Darth Sidious. The whole reason why Darth Sidious, they crept from the shadows. Because before him was all the Brotherhood of Darkness. That's where the Path of Destruction starts. Is that the Sith, they all became kind of, like, allies with each other. Where there wasn't really a main leader. There was Khan, or whatever. He was kind of the guy that grouped them all together. But they were all pretty much... There was too much peace, as he would say. Like, they made them kind of too much of an ally. Because the Sith don't work that way. They have to defeat the number one guy in order, to usurp the power. There has to be a number one. There has to be a number one with the Sith.
Well, it means it always pushes the apprentice to become more powerful than the master.
Well, two there should be, no more, no less. A master embody the power, and then the apprentice who crave it. That's how it is. That's his whole motto that he came up with.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of stole it from Darth Revan, but he was the underdog for most of the story. That's what I love about him. Like, he has a lot of power to start off with, like on Apatros, that planet he grew up on.
Minor.
Yeah, on the mining planet. Like that whole origin story, I love it. He's still miserable. It starts off so miserable. He's in the mines. He's choking on dust and all. He has the jackhammers. He's trying to mine all the cortosis for the Republic. Because they use that for the war against...
The cortosis, it's resistant to lightsabers, right?
Yeah, so that's why it's so hard to... they have to have jackhammers, because apparently they can't use lasers or something, because lightsabers, that's why, because lightsabers can't go through it. So they have to use, jackhammers, and so it takes forever. And so anyway, he talks about how his back's all knotted up, and he's like a muscular, he's pretty much, I guess, Bane from Batman.
Dark Knight Rises.
He's very, very strong. But anyways, that whole entrance, it just talks about how miserable his life, and he just wants to get off the rock. He just wants to get out of there. So then eventually he ends up killing a Republic trooper, and then he's trying to hide from the Republic, and then he gets away off the planet, and then eventually the Sith find him, and then he gets accepted into the Korriban Academy. And that whole thing of him being the underdog at first, they all look at him, and he's kind of he's just more of a brute. Everyone thinks of him as kind of a brute, and he doesn't really have much power. Yeah. And then he ends up dueling. They have a dueling thing on that planet, and I think that's where you stopped in the book. But the whole underdog situation where he ends up beating one of the guys. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he ends up reading a whole bunch of ancient Sith lore. So he ends up finding holocrons from Darth Revan, and before that he goes to
he has manuscripts too, right? From,
manuscripts he finds a lot from the library, but a lot of it was
temples, yeah.
A lot of it from Korriban, though, at the time, were demolished because the Sith, Khan, the guy that was leader of it, destroyed a lot of it because he didn't want the Sith ideology of them, one guy trying to take the power. And
right.
So it made the Sith very weak because they didn't have a lot of knowledge. So anyways, he goes to the Valley of the Dark Lords, and he finds out all those tombs were pillaged, and there's nothing left in them. And so then he gets really mad at that, and then... I don't want to ruin the novel for you, but anyways, so he's pretty much the underdog, and then he ends up getting more powerful through knowledge. And so he's not just a brute. He attains knowledge. He starts off weak, and then he slowly builds. He has a arc. He has a big arc. That's what I love about him. And then eventually...
he learns that there's a side to, reading stuff that makes him even stronger.
Yeah. And then so eventually he just becomes so much more powerful than, everyone in the Brotherhood of Darkness. And then he ends up doing you already know this part, the Thought Bomb.
Well, yes, the Apprentice. Yeah. Well, yeah, the Thought Bomb.
Yeah.
The Thought Bomb's pretty cool.
That Thought Bomb, I think it's even in Night Soul Republic. Not Night Soul Republic, I mean...
it's in Jedi Outcast.
Jedi Outcast is what I meant. That whole Thought Bomb was so cool, how eventually he tricks the Sith, the Brotherhood of Darkness.
Well, he takes out the Jedi and the Sith, right?
Well, takes out most of the Jedi that were on that planet. But the problem with the Brother of Darkness, that was their weakness, is they still didn't have enough numbers. So they're going by their thing, but they still weren't going to win. They were ultimately going to lose. Yeah. That's why Darth Bane took them out, because he knew it was just eventually they were going to dwindle out. Like, it's going to take many years for them to die off. Right. But got all the Jedi that were on the planet, I think it was Rune or something like that. And so they all get consumed inside that thing, and so they're trapped in that ball for like all eternity or whatever. And it's like
it's like a force stasis kind of like bomb that explodes.
And I like how they describe it and everything. Like they're all trying to run out. There's the one girl from there. She's trying to run out, and then it's like boom, it like goes off, and it ends up being like this cold place. He ends up visiting it later, and he sees like ghosts from the past. He kind of sees
it keeps all the force ghosts like stuck there.
Yeah, and then
which actually
go ahead.
I was gonna say what I like about that is they bring it back in with Kyle Katarn in Jedi Outcast. Well, I don't know if it's in Jedi Outcast. It might be the game before or after, but
right.
He actually goes back to that spot where the thought bomb was. So it's like thousands of years later, and he actually sees the thought bomb.
Yep.
And he I think he gets drawn there from like a great suffering or something from the Force, and he goes there, and he actually releases them from the thought bomb.
Right.
So all the Force users finally get out. But I like that they reference that. They bring it back.
Right. So his problem with those Sith Lords, the Brotherhood of Darkness, was that they had honor. They had too much honor. So they would, when they killed someone, it'd be like, oh, it was an honorable death. And Darth Bane was more of a practical guy. He says that there's no honor for the dead or whatever. That's one of his quotes. And so he was more so like he was very brutal. But it goes on like and then obviously in the second book, the whole Orbalisk armor, he becomes like impenetrable. Like no lightsaber can go through it. And the only thing is though, it sucks his life. And he's actually talking about people that die early. He pretty much ends up weakening him, because later on he gets it taken off because he fights first 5 Jedi Masters, and they put like a shield around him, a Force shield, and he accidentally does his own Force lightning, and it bounces off of the shield onto himself. It kills like some of the Orbalisk, 5 of them or something like that, and he ends up having to take it off. He goes to a planet, and from the first book he goes back, and it's pretty cool, that part. And so then after that he kind of has a tremor on his hand, and so it kind of weakens him after that, and he gets aged really old from it. But before that though, when he had that, it made him ultra powerful with it. But it was a lot of painful though. Apparently it's like very painful. But anyways, he's my number one. I
mean the whole Rule 2 thing is pretty like foundational for Star Wars and for the Sith. And so I like that that Plagueis is like all the other Sith tried to continue what Darth Bane basically started. I know Bane got stuff influenced from Revan and his
the holocron,
but basically, I mean, Bane started the role too, so he kind of gets credit for like the start of the grand plan, the Sith Imperative, and all that.
Yep.
So I really like that part of Star Wars.
We know
the Sith Imperative.
That's a good part. Yeah. No,
So I knew that was going to be your number one.
Yeah. So should we go off on a list that we thought?
Yeah. So actually, my list is I don't think I only got one of yours correct.
Only one? I mean, what the number?
Well, the correct spot.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
All right, so mine. All right, this is what I thought your list was going to be. Number 5, I had the San from Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, I know.
The strong survive.
Yeah.
Now
he's a good choice. I have to say he's probably one of the most quotable Sith Lords. I have to say that he's one of the most quotable.
The strong
I don't know
survive.
Too much about his backstory. So I won't.
Yeah, I mean, there's not
him.
actually that much backstory. So I was like, if he puts, I know he likes him. I know you like the character, but if he's gonna be on there, I'll put him at number 5. No, I thought you were gonna make that like a surprise.
For my number 5, he wasn't on my list, but for my number 5 was between him and Darth Sion. I mean, between Vitiate and Darth Sion. But I was like, I really like Darth Sion because he's
I almost put him on the list for you.
Yeah. Like, the only problem is he didn't have enough story. He didn't have enough.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, like, I loved how he was actually one of the immortal Sith. Technically, he could live forever. He was one of the 3 that achieved it. Well, no,
he holds himself together with the dark side of the Force.
Through pain.
With his anger and pain, yeah.
Yeah, I did like him. But there's not enough for me to actually have him as on the list, I think. But.
So, that was wrong. Then I had number 4, I had Plagueis. I don't know why I put Plagueis so low for you, but I put him as number 4. Well, it's because I had 3. I had Darth Maul Because I know Darth Maul used to be like your favorite Sith. But he dropped over time.
Yeah, so I think with Darth Maul,
no,
he was definitely on. I actually was thinking about him, and then I took him off. But reason why is I do not like all the stuff they do with him in the Clone Wars. He comes back too much. I like him in the Phantom Menace. Okay, I really liked him in the Phantom Menace, but then they just bring him back too much. When someone dies and they comes back too many times, cut in half. Yeah, like he's not just coming back in the Force. Like Marco Ragnos makes sense. He comes back as a ghost a lot of times, but when that's another thing. That's why I didn't like Darth Sidious as much anymore. Like Darth Sidious would have been my number 2, but Darth Plagueis took the place just because I don't like when Sith Lords come back too many times. It ruins it.
Yeah, I agree.
It reminds me of the old TV shows.
It's like, oh, I've returned.
Yeah, the bag. He's never dead. The bag, he's gonna return.
He returns somehow.
Yeah. I used to watch MacGyver, and there's this guy called Murdoch on that, and he would always return in every single season. Like he dies in every season, but he comes back.
I think he's coming back. I actually kind of like that though.
I do like
they
that.
actually kill him off. He comes back again.
I like that in TV shows that aren't as serious. Like it's not meant to be like ultimately like completely like it has to have a little less. Star Wars wasn't meant to be that. They weren't trying to have
slapstick comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it wasn't slapstick. MacGyver's not slapstick, but some of it can be. But I mean, anyways.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. So Maul, I got.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I wasn't sure if you're gonna put him on there, but I was like, oh, it's probably a good guess to put.
Yeah,
Maul
it was
on
between
there.
actually it was between Darth Cyan, Darth Maul, and Darth Fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was between those 3.
Number 2, I had Sidious, but you actually had Sidious at number. I thought you were gonna put Sidious above Plagueis, so that's why I put Sidious for number 2.
Right.
For you.
Well, which you were onto something because that's actually what I originally would have had a few years ago. But yeah. Yep.
So Sidious was incorrect. So the only one I got right was Darth Vane, which I mean he's been your favorite for like since the very beginning.
Yeah.
When you first got into Star Wars, you went like right to Darth Bane.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got into Bane so early.
I literally, what happened was I went to the bookstore. I was like, you know what? I want to read a book from Star Wars, and it happened to be right when those books were coming out. And it happened to be right. And I read the back of it. I was like, it said on the back. Wait, I had the book right here. It says on the back.
Because I remember I introduced the KOTOR to you, and you weren't like at that time you weren't even into Star Wars really.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you were reading Darth Bane. You were reading you were doing the KOTOR.
Well, listen to the back of this. I mean, who doesn't want to buy this when they go to the bookstore and see a first Star Wars book? It says, 2 there should be, no more, no less. One of them buy the power, the other to crave it. Darth Bane, Dark Lord of the Sith. And then it says under that, on the run from vengeful Republic forces, Dessel, a Cortosis miner, vanished into the ranks of the Sith army and ships.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool story. I never saw it, so I never read it.
Yeah.
And I still I'm reading it now after all these years. But mostly because the reason why I didn't read it is because you talked so much about it. I felt like I already read the books. I was like, I already you've talked about them so much.
Well, this is the line that really got me when it says, "It is a trial by fire in which he must surrender fully to the dark side and forge from the ashes a new era of absolute power." I was like, all right, come on. Darth Bane.
That sounds like my life.
Yeah, right?
I relate to him.
Yeah. So, yeah. So
I got one correct.
Yeah, but you had a lot of them in, like, most of them were on my list. I mean, the list.
Well, Maul and Desant. I had 3 of them that were
on
the list. 2 of them were not on your list at all.
Okay, so you're going to love my number 5. My number 5 for you is Desant.
No way. You actually put number...
Yes, I took a picture of it. So
we both put this on for number 5.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
That's really funny, actually.
Yeah.
He actually doesn't have that much story. I don't think he deserves to be on the list. But
well, I always
thought cool though.
It is the best quotes, But yeah. So yeah, and then I forget what you had for number 5. Was it Marco Ragnos you had?
Yeah, Marco Ragnos.
Yeah. So my number 4 for you was Marco Ragnos. I knew you had Marco Ragnos on there. Yeah, I knew you had Marco Ragnos on there.
See, I don't even talk about Marco Ragnos very much.
No, but I just knew because from those tombs, and you always talk about that one part with him coming back on the ghost on Jedi Outcast
keeps coming back
Academy. Yeah, I know you like that part. I was like, no, it has to be on his list. So I put it.
I'm glad you put him on the list because that was I thought that was going to surprise you.
That one I knew was on the list, but I forget one of them. I think surprised me.
Bravo.
All right, so number 3 was Darth Sidious, I thought. Of course, I think that was number 2 for you.
Yeah, that was my number 2.
Yeah, see what I mean? It's always like rearranged by 1.
Yeah.
And then number 2 was Darth Revan.
Which was my number 3. So you had Sidious and Revan
Yeah,
swapped.
so yeah. And then for number 1, I got it right. Darth Plagueis.
So we both only got one correct.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
all right. So wait,
we both know who our number ones are.
Wait. So which ones did you guess that weren't on my list?
Dasan.
That was the only one.
Yeah.
All right. So I had guessed 2 of yours that were, I guess, Maul and Dasan for you. So neither of those were on the list. So technically, you got more correct.
Yeah.
Like on the list, but we both only got one in the right spot.
But those were honorable though, because I was actually thinking for a long time if I should have Maul on the list or not. So yep, very honorable.
So I guess I'll let you get the victory for that, since you had more correct on the list.
So that's a point for me.
Yeah, it's a point for you.
So I think we plan on doing more lists like this if we
I'd like to do
that.
more characters and more of some other
could
stuff too. I don't want to get
tally up of who wins the most, right? In the end.
Yeah, fine. I'll give you this one. It's like,
all right.
Just because it's the first one, I'll give it to you, even though we both only had one correct.
All right. Yep.
But yeah, I think we both knew that my favorite was Plagueis. And did you think mine was going to be Sidious at all?
I knew Sidious was on a list, but I knew how much you liked that Darth Plagueis book, and I was like, nah. Like Darth Plagueis.
Plagueis is too cool. I just think he's like the most unique Sith for me. So.
No, that book was really good. Like, especially when it's the Sith Imperative. I was like, yeah.
The Sith Imperative. He says it so much in the book. It's like one of my favorite lines.
It's awesome.
You always got to say it with the Sith Imperative.
I think that actually is on the rank for most favorite Star Wars book, though. I think that probably is like number one for like around on the table. Like, it is really well written. But
it's a great book.
Yeah,
definitely listen to the Plagueis novel. Yeah, or read the Bane trilogy.
The Darth Bane trilogy. Need to read that. Everyone out there listening to this need to read the Darth Bane trilogy.
I think most people would like Plagueis book because it ties in the prequels a lot. It has like the Empire, has Old Republic, has everything pretty much.
If you don't like the prequels, I highly recommend that you read Darth Plagueis. It might change your perspective on them. I'm telling you, especially the Phantom Menace, and then turns Chancellor. Chancellor is where it ends.
Right.
A spoiler alert for anyone.
And also, if you don't want to read a book, you can start off with Knights of the Old Republic. It's a good introduction to anything Old Republic, or like before Episode 1.
I agree.
That's a good introduction to start. So, all right, I guess we should wrap it up here since we've gone on. We've rambled for long enough. Catch you next time, I guess.
All right.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, likewise.
Farewell for now.